The following program presents principles designed to promote good health. It should not take the place of personal professional care. Viewers should always consult their qualified health practitioner before considering alternative treatment.
We want to put our whole study on things that we cannot change with our own mind. And those are 4 things that we came to understand. I hope you still remember the fundamental law. And what takes us the most time is to see the structure of the human being. The structure is fixed by the Creator. We just need to know it and measure it by the law so that we can know how to work with it. We have seen that we have needs and we need power to put our whole being into action. And that is an objective foundation that we cannot change by our own interpretation. So we are remembering that the human being exists out of how many parts? 2 or 3? So I hope you all know it's 2 parts. And it's a body and a spirit. And the spirit conducts the body on cortex level, and together it makes the living soul. And when they are separated, the soul is dead, because then there is no music anymore. So this is the big picture of spirit, soul, and body. And now, we saw yesterday that the Spirit has the whole responsibility over what happens in the soul. So he must govern through the way he thinks, to his decision, what he feeds the body. He governs everything through what he thinketh. All processes that happen in our body are conducted by what we think. All our feelings, that is, our emotions, are the result of our thoughts. That's why we must know that what we think is the most important thing, because it conducts the whole nervous system, it conducts all hormonal system. So when we have a disbalance in our hormones, where do we look to? We look to what the person thinketh. If a person comes to me and has a B12 level too short, yes, a deficiency of B12 or iron, where do I look? Of course, I look to his thoughts. Because you see, if people have a low vitamin B12, even though they eat enough vitamin B12, why do they have a low vitamin B12? So it's very, very clear that the spirit brings a disbalance in the metabolism of the body, and that this balance is shown where it appears. If it's the vitamin B12, it's the iron, if it's the blood sugar, in the end, it doesn't really matter. It's a disbalance, we have to acknowledge it, and we have to see how to change it. Now, of course, we can give the body some hormones from outside to balance it for a while, or vitamin B12, but even though if you bring in from outside, you will go into deficiency if you don't fix what comes out of that thing. The immune system is governed by what we think. The digestive system, our blood sugar, all the balances of our chemistry is balanced by what we think. We cannot think that chemistry balances itself. I had a pretty young lady, she was in her 30s, and she had type 1 diabetes. And she was not, she came with other things to me in my ENT field, but of course I asked her all the diseases that she had, and I said, your diseases come from the way you think? And then she was thinking for a while, and then she agreed. She said, my blood sugar goes the way I think. Because she has also that nice device that every 20 minutes measures how the blood sugar is. And she said, I once was in a court, and when she was in a court, judgment court, she had her blood sugar. What happens? He rises. And then she puts the insulin because she says, I want to keep him down at 120. I don't let him go over 120. But she puts the insulin on, and what happens with the blood sugar? It still goes up. And then she puts another insulin, and the blood sugar still goes up. Until when does the blood sugar goes up? Until the court session is ended. And what happens then? Suddenly it drops because now the insulin is working. So we must understand we cannot by chemistry govern chemistry. Yes, it's not possible. Chemistry is governed by something outside of chemistry. And our thoughts are outside of chemistry. They impact all our chemistry. And I think this information I learned in my practice, and I can prove it today in the way we function by the law. Because our body needs electricity. Those electrical inputs that we give with our thoughts are the most important thing that go through our body. And they can do any disease possible. They can do any dysfunction possible. Of course, the spirit is also responsible of what he puts in. And certain chemicals, of course, together with the wrong chemistry, the wrong thought, that the wrong electricity might potentially bring more damage than others. By example, if you have an allergy. An allergy is an immune problem, like also the type 1 diabetes. And if you go to a vegan diet, you can lower your symptoms. They even might, for a while, disappear. But did you change the cause? The cause is still there, but you just took out that cofactor that made that reaction more obvious. So it's so important for us to really understand the two things we need to govern. If we want to be healthy and doing our job correctly, we might to govern our thoughts, which are the most important things, because love is the most important thing in human life, not food. And food we must govern as well. But if the spirit is unhappy, he will not eat properly. But if the spirit is happy, he has no problem with food. But you can, for a while, and I have seen this in patients, to take a better diet, remove some symptoms for a while, and then they come back. Because you can never, if you like your preferred dish, resist it when you think, oh, I'm fine now, so let's eat that. So we must have this picture before us to understand one governs the other. The way we think is the most important because it determines also what we eat, what we drink, how we sleep, and how we work. So yesterday I presented you the first case where I learned how the pattern of thoughts come into the body. We learned that all the physical symptoms that the person has must be objective. What we see, hear, feel, and so on are objective because they come from the body and say to the spirit what is there, that something is wrong. And so we must know why it is. The spirit must know, oh, if my finger hurts, it is because I put my finger in some place where it got hurt. Then he knows he will never put that finger again in that place. But if his finger hurts, without that he put the finger somewhere in a place, he must ask himself, how does that hurt coming into that finger? So he is responsible to think about it. And this lady who had this severe headaches for 2 weeks had it because she lost her liberty, so to say, because her boyfriend betrayed her. When she heard that news, she changed the way she thought, and she was disappointed, hurt, revengeful thoughts. Those were thoughts where you take yourself into prison, and what you do is you harm your body. And your body comes as a feedback and says, stop it. And if you don't stop it, it goes on. This lady now has a headache, but in 5 years, if she has not stopped the problem, the way she thinks, she might have cancer or whatever. Because it accumulates over the time. So, why do people do themselves harm when others do mistakes? Would you like to have an answer to that? I mean, why would you get angry if someone falls apart? And especially if you're married for 40 years. You know the story from last time? I hope you thought about that story. Did you? If you're married for 40 years, shouldn't you not know your husband? Yes or no? Should you have understanding for his twisting situation? Shouldn't you or not? We must know that something is in us that might bring us in a little while in danger. And should we not be able to help? Why should we see ourselves as the victims of the situation? Why should we not think lovely to that person? You see the problem that we have? Because the law says, as I need to breathe fresh air, as the law says that we need to drink good water, and we eat the good fruit, yes, the good food, the law says you always need to think lovingly. Whenever you stop thinking lovingly, your brain gets damaged. And is it worth it to not think lovingly when another person does a mistake? Shouldn't we have understanding with that person? I mean, I would ask the pastor to ask the question, how many Christians do we have here? At least Christians should have read somewhere in their Bible, love your enemies. Do good to those who betray you. Smile to them that curse you. Shouldn't it? Would that be liberty or would that be prisonership? That's liberty. And if you cannot do it, you're still in prison of your own self-thinking. So I saw this pattern in all of my patients because they all think with an error. No one sees in it an error. And I hope you went last night home and you told the ones that were not here that you don't need anymore to be loved by them. It's enough if you love them. Because you don't live by what another thinketh. You live by what you think. Your brain, your body gets the food by what you think, not by what another thinketh. So does it matter what your husband thinks about you? Yes or no? Now I hope you all reason together with me that it does not matter. I once had a case in a in a family that the wife, you see, women are curious. And sometimes they ask their husband what they think. Not in a special matter, but what they think. And this woman asked her husband what he dreamed. And the husband was not careful enough to tell her what he dreamed. And since then, the marriage was in a problem. So, is it important what another dreams? Yes or no? I hope you see the irrationality. It's his dream. Let him dream what he wants. Would you like to control his dreams? Absolutely. This is a terrible thing. Isn't it? I mean, seriously, why should we try to know except we want to help? But she didn't want to help her husband after she heard what he dreamed. So we saw in this simple law that the body can be nourished by chemistry, and you take it from nature and give it to him. We saw that only we are responsible, the way we think, loving thoughts to our body. We take them from somewhere and give them to the body. And so we are all in control of our lives. But now we think we need to be loved. Someone else needs to put love in my spirit. And you see, in Christianity, because I have a lot of Christians as well as patients, as non-Christians, and all other people who are there with their beliefs. And the Christians think like this. They say, okay, my husband does not need to really love me so much because he's not always available. I just read in a scripture, in a Christian, the story of this lady that she says, my husband, I need love from him. Poor lady. But however, she says, I go to God and it's enough if he loves me. And I say, that's good for God, but that's not good for you. Because how much does it matter if someone loves you if you don't love as well? How much does it matter? Nothing. So does God love all human beings or not? Is God love? And who benefits from his love? Only him who loves also. If you just say, oh, God loves me, everything is fine, I think it's not that problem. One young lady came once to me and she had allergies, and she listened to my first presentation and she said, oh, what's going on? And I said, well, there must be some relationship issues. And she says, oh, but I have so many good friends that love me. I said, that's no problem. It's only those people you don't love that make you sick. You understand? Our problem is never what others are doing, but we take that as our problem. And then she found out and said, oh yeah, there are some issues that I have that I cannot love. I cannot think freely towards these people. So to be loved, to receive, is the act of others, and it is the greatest subjective deception. All people that I saw in my practice that are sick is because they want to be loved. Would you ever dream that it's the cause? I mean, on conscious level? Would you ever think that is the problem? Never. But I tell you just a story on our 30th anniversary. I don't know which is this year, but however. I was driving to my car to my practice in my car in the morning, and I was praying to God. I said, Lord, my wife wants something that I should give her for the anniversary. Do women need something for the anniversary? Yes. Do men need something? No. So, now that's the difference between men and women, yes? So, they need something. So I'm driving to to the practice and I talked to the Lord and said, Lord, help me. And then I remember that she likes roses. And I think it's 29th of May, roses in May, 30 roses, 5 euro, it's 120, 150. And so I'm doing the calculation. I will speak about that calculation soon. And so I think that's for a doctor shouldn't be a problem, but I'm more a traveling doctor, so I was thinking what to do. And I come to my practice. I didn't take a decision yet. I just put it in front of the Lord because I had still the whole day to think what I shall buy. And so I come to the practice, and my first patient is a 24-year-old lady who cannot eat since 3 days. Something makes her not be able to swallow. And now you look into her throat, and how much do you find there? Nothing. She can swallow, there's no obstruction, nothing there, but she cannot eat. Now you know why she cannot eat. Do you? Why can she not eat? Because she's not loved. And so I ask her what's going on, and she says, well, I'm married for 2 years, and my husband is like he is, so they start to tell how good the husband is. And then she says, I just want to give you one example how he behaves. That was in our honeymoon. He didn't want to go to honeymoon. Man doesn't need that. But ladies do need honeymoon. So that's why she insisted, and finally he took 7 days honeymoon. It's better than nothing. Yeah? And so he put 3 nights at the beach in the hotel and 4 nights in the city. Because, in the city it's cheaper than on the beach. And then he didn't take 3 meals a day. He took only 2 meals a day, so that it's even more cheaper. And so, because, men think economically. Yes? Some of them at least. So she thought maybe he wants to bring me out in the evening. So she dressed nicely and put off. I said, let's go eat. And then he says, okay, let's go to the grocery stores, buy something, and have fun. That's very, very, how you call it, romantic, no? You like the guy? You like him? No. While she was talking and telling me the story, something was going on in my mind. Whom did I see? Whom did I see? I saw myself. Exactly my picture. And did I like what I see? I abhorred what I saw. And so in my innermost heart, I said to the Lord, I said, God, whatever the roses cost, I buy them. I saw my greediness, and I said, I cannot do this. But thank God, he is very merciful to my budget, or to his budget, because it's his money. In the next 2 minutes, my wife calls. I answered the phone, and you see, the emergency was that she found a rose bush that she said, can I buy it for our anniversary? And of course, I took already the decision, whatever it costs, but you never can abstain yourself to ask how much is it. And so I asked how much it is. And then she said, 38 euro. So I said, that's fine. Yes, she can buy it. And so everything went very well. I got a good lesson. And the budget was good. And now what do I do with this young girl? because now I want her to eat again. Because she said, while she was in honeymoon, she tried to kill herself in the pool of the hotel. So, because, you only kill yourself because you're not loved. Because you want something from another one that doesn't give it to you. And you think you're dependent on that. And I said to her, look, your husband loves you. How do I know? I said to her, your husband loves you. He's married to you. And I told her my story. I said, you see, I'm today 30 years married. And I still have to learn how to love my wife. So give him a chance. He's only 2 years old. He's only 2 years exercise. Yes, isn't it nice to give him a chance? And I said, while you give him a chance, help him. Women can help boys to learn to love. I said, you always smile when you see him. Is that a good prescription? And never complain of anything to him. Because husbands cannot take care of the complaints of their women. They are overwhelmed with it. So leave them. Go to God, do your own business with him, and just be nice to him. And you will see he might change. He might love you more because you're now not anymore under a sad face. Husbands cannot do anything with a woman that is sad. Do you agree, husband, with me? Huh? Women must smile all the time. And so she went home, and she ate, and I met her 3 months later. And she said, it worked. I thank, praise God. It worked because she started to love. You see, when you want to help the other should be also able to love, then you must help him loving. But you can only help by loving, because only love brings out love. Yeah? So, let us stop forever now on our conscious level to expect to be loved, to be respected, and all this, which is without a law support that someone can give it to us. Let us enter the relationships that we have with spouse, with father, with mother, with children, just for the purpose to give them love. We don't need their love back because we know where we take our love and give it further. And so every agent of us would be a free agent and not one in bondage, not one in prison. Because whenever you want to be loved, you make yourself dependent of the acts and existence of others. And relationships, are they more important than food or not? Yes. Ask children, they say it to you. Love is more important than anything else. And that needs to be satisfied by none other than our own action. And the law says you must take. And when are you satisfied? When you take or when you give? When you feel good? Always when you give. Okay? So that's what I discovered on conscious level, that my patients get sick because others do mistake. And mistake is the perception they don't love me. No matter what it is, that's a general approach. So this was very surprising for me, and it was astonishing when I was happy to see that the deception that we have in us is not something that looks evil. Does it? Does it look evil, you think, to be loved? No, but it's very evil because it kills you. It destroys you when you don't get what you expect. And you cannot force the other to love you, can you? Oh, sometimes we take them, love me, please. But no one can be forced to be loved. So, 2007, at the end of 2007, I could understand where this idea comes from. I understood the subconscious. I started to understand what is there, what we are not aware of in our human spirit. I thought, as I began to do my studies in my own practice, that every disease has a different cause. And so I put my patients in different groups because I wanted to see in the groups what do they have for a common denominator. Because I said the one that has the same disease must have the same cause. And so the best patients were they that had all of these symptoms. Those I called, I said, I want to have an interview with you because I want to know what's going on in your life, that you have also dizziness, you have tinnitus, you have cancer, you have blood sugar, you have diabetes, because some people have it all. What do they do that they have it all? So, searching for the common denominator in each group, I found at the end of 2007 that the common denominator in every group was the same. It was the same thought that was in every group. And I was amazed. Would you not be? It doesn't matter what the patient told me for a story, I knew the thought that generated the story. I knew the thought that all things start and all come back. And that was the thought of loss. If you would never have lost anything, you would never have any problems in your life. Everything is a problem of loss. Medicine lives from loss. The lawyers live from loss. You know, if you could avoid loss, medical doctor and lawyers would lose their job. It has nothing to do. It's all about loss. And it took me 4 months to be convinced it is not more than loss. And what helped me was an evaluation paper that my son brought home from his psychology study, and there were 25 questions that the psychologist put together to see if you're in danger to get any issues in your life. And you know, I read all those 25 questions. You know what was their common denominator? Every single question asked just loss. I said, you could put it only one question and it's fine. I wonder if they saw that they asked 25 times the same thing. Because there is no more that makes us suffer except loss. It's a subconscious thought, but we can see that it is so. So I was very happy about that, and so I came to understand after 4 months that in our subconscious, I didn't know then all the details of it, like I know it today, because I saw these things and I came to know them step by step. I saw then that we have in our spirit a subconscious place that is between these two dark lines. And I know that we have 5 senses, that they all come to the spirit, and they must pass the conscious and go into the subconscious. And in the subconscious, you have only 3 categories where you put things into. It's either gain, indifference, or loss. So everything you experience in your life, in seeing, hearing, and so on, you have only 3 places to put it. Either though it is interesting for you, then it's a gain, or it's a loss when it's going to be taken away from you, or you say, doesn't matter, I am not interested in that. That's the indifference. There are only 2 in the end, but I put 3 to be complete, that we put the things into it. Because what its indifference doesn't matter for us. Yes, we don't even try to think about it. If you don't like apples or whatever, does it matter if there are no apples there? Yes, no, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but if you like apples and they're not there, then you have a problem. So everything you experience on all 5 senses is just gain or loss, or I'm not interested in it. And we are so made that we have only 2 decisions. If we have only 2 categories to decide, then we can only have 2 decisions. And that one decision is we must achieve the gain. And for that, we have the decision of yes. When we say yes, we gain. We were made to avoid loss. That's why we say no to loss. So all decisions that men have is just yes and no. With the yes, you make the input, the electricity, and with the no, not. Does that look like IT things? Yes, it's the same thing like we use in the tablets. Yes and no, electricity and no electricity, electricity and no electricity. So this is how it works. So all decisions we do, we must put into gain or loss, and we are so made that we say yes to the loss, to the gain, and no to the loss. So what is individual and what is not individual? What is the same in all people? Now, what is individual is the what is a gain and or a loss, and the how much. That is subjective. For everyone, can it be different, but it can also be the same. So that's individual, but for some it's the same. So that what is individual, we never bother. Yes? Because everyone has to do it like he wants. If he likes apple, let him have apples. If you like mangosteens or whatever, let him have that. But what is not individual, but is set in every person the same, is the question, how? How do I come to gain, and how do I avoid loss? So how can I come to that? That is the same in all humans, because it is set by the law who created him. So let us see how that works in another way to explain it. So here it is, the subconscious. That's the line in between conscious and subconscious. And in the consciousness, we have our will. Our will must first be alert to make any decision. We cannot take a decision while being unconscious. There must be a certain consciousness to be able to take a decision. So, first in the will, a light comes up, and that H stays for hunger, and F for freezing, and T for tiredness, and S for sweating. Yeah. So whatever comes up, it's too cold, too hot. These are the physical things that come up into your will. You are aware of your need of your body, and now you know how to decide about it. But also the spiritual needs. H stays for harmony, J for justice, L for loyalty, T for trust or for truth, V for wisdom, S for security. Yes, that's the needs there. So we must first be aware of our need, and then we must take the decision. But a decision we take without knowing it in our subconsciousness. So in the will, every human being is different. Yes? Because that doesn't matter. How strong your will is, how weak your will is, what you want, what you don't want, that's individually free. But while we function, and that's not free, that's function, is in the heart. So in the heart, we are all the same. That's why the subconscious is the place where the law is set, where things work. And you can never ask an individual that you made how it should work, can you? Can you choose how you work, how you function? Can you choose it? No, you can only bring yourself into dysfunction. But you can never choose how you have to function. So in the subconscious, we have the body, and the body is green always. I hope you saw that. And the cells in the brain, the neurons, have only plus and minus. Yes, they don't have anything else. And the zero line here. And now we ask ourselves, the spirit is above it. That's me. And he has to govern and make the electricity by those two thoughts or one thought. For the negative, he has the loss. And for the positive, he has the gain. And he was set for the gain to say yes, and he was set for the loss to say no. That's very simple, is it? So this mechanism, I think, is most important for us to understand, because it is in every human being the same. Every human being takes his decision the same way like every other human being takes his decision. What he decides doesn't matter. I usually have pens with me, but I don't have them here. But we have a white pen. You imagine we have a white thing and a black color. What do you choose? Who choose black? At least one, okay. And who choose white? Other ones. So, you chose different thing, yes? Black and white are different thing. But how did you choose it? You choose it the same way like everyone else. Those who choose black put black in the gain and white in the loss. And those who choose white put white in the gain and black, or was it the same? So, opposite, yes? Everyone puts his thing into the gain, and then he must say yes. So it doesn't matter what you choose it always because it is a gain for you. You would never choose anything that is not a gain for you. You cannot. And you would never try to avoid anything that you think is not a loss. And there is no choice for this. We can never say yes to loss, no matter what we do. It's an impossibility to say yes to loss, because we are not made to be able to say yes to loss. That's why all our problems come when we lose our no to avoid loss. But let's give an example, very simple one. A surgeon needs to do a surgery. To take out that what is not good in the body is a gain, yes? And to cut also out the heart is a loss. Or in my field, when you do the sinus surgeries, to go a little bit too deep to get into the brain is a loss. And if you just get out what is needed, then it's a gain. So where do the surgeon live? Where does he live while he does surgery? In his continual tension on this border, he must gain and he must avoid the loss. If we could choose loss, the surgeons could say, well, if I cut the brain a little bit out, doesn't matter. Yes? We could have no direction. We could never govern ourselves if we have not exactly said yes and no. And we have never gray zone. You see, when you want to drink, you say yes. And why do you stop drinking? Because it becomes a loss. You will die if you don't take breath. Yeah? So it's every action that we do, every decision is just gain and loss, gain and loss, gain and loss. And it goes in seconds. We can make a decision between gain and loss in 4.5 milliseconds. That is, we can have about 200 and something decisions in 1 second. Yeah, that's fast, isn't it? That's very nice. So that's how we were made. When I discovered this whole process in the human heart, I didn't discover it in the Bible, I discovered it on my patients. I said, if this is the truth, then this must be written in the Bible for long. If this is the heart of man, or a part of the heart of man, then, and it is so important for our health, then it must be there. It could not be that the Bible would say something that is not important for our life to be. And so I went to the Lord because have you ever written in the Bible something between gain and loss? You will search now, I hope, for those who want. And I found in the Sermon on the Mount, in the center of the Sermon on the Mount, the Creator of us says exactly this mechanism. Have you ever read it? He says, from 6:19, he says, do not store or treasures on earth where moth and rust can eat them and thief can steal them. But put a treasure on heaven where neither moth nor moth can eat them, or thieves cannot go to steal them. Because where your treasure is, there is your heart. So, what is the first need of the heart? It's a treasure. Gain is a treasure, isn't it? You see, when young people are in love, what do they think in their subconscious? What did they gain? Big gain, small gain? And how do they feel? They feel so good. That's the man or that's the girl, and they feel so good. Because they think they got the highest gain. Yeah? That's how you think subconsciously. But then why does the feeling go away with the time? You know why? Because that gain diminishes with the time. Because now that you know the person better, you see he has some scratches. Or he has, he is not a diamond like you thought before. Then he becomes gold. Then he becomes silver. And then he becomes iron. And then suddenly he might become rust. You laugh. But when it becomes rust, how much feelings do you have towards him? Nothing. You see, when patients come to me or people come to me and say, I don't feel anything for him anymore, I say, I know exactly why. Because you put no value on him anymore. The person you value, you have good feeling towards. If you don't feel any good to a person, you don't value that person anymore. It's a loss for you. It's very simple, isn't it? So when Jesus says, where your treasure is, your heart is, that he means your life is dependent on your treasure. When there is only one reason why you should have no earthly treasure. What's that one reason? What is the possibility with the earthly treasure? It can be lost. While the heavenly can never be lost. And whenever you lose your treasure, you start dying. That's what I experienced in my practice. My patients have lost their treasure. And I can tell you heaps of stories. I just have a gentleman that came into my practice. He's 49 years old, professor of biology. And he went into a severe burnout. And he was in an institution there. And since he had also some issue with his left ear for 5 years and left eye for 1 year, so they sent him to me as to look for him for his ENT issue. And of course, as I don't look just for ENT issues, I look to the whole human being. I asked him what is more in his life. Only these 5 years, left ear, 1 year this, and now the burnout. I know those are things that come over time. And then he tells me, yes, I lost 5 years ago my ability for intimacy. Now, when you're 44-year-old, a male, and you lose your capacity for intimacy, do you have a problem or not? Yes, women say that, but even men say it. You have a problem. So, he must have what in his heart? Great loss or little loss? A great treasure lost or a little treasure? Great treasure. And now I ask him, what happened? And he told me, in 2008 or 2009, I don't know exactly what year he said to me, they had a fourth child. And the fourth child was in 2008 or 2009. It was 6 years old, and it was selling cherries on the street for the cars that come by. And she ran over the street to bring a supply of cherries. And while she ran over the street, a car came and killed her. And since then, tell me, is this man a free man or a bondman? It doesn't matter what he learned in biology. It doesn't matter what profession he has. He lost what? His treasure. And now he loses his life. Because he bound his life, his heart, to a treasure that is earthly or that is not earthly. Perishable or unperishable? Perishable. Is he conscious about that? No. But I asked him, I said, could you take off your mind from what happened and think how you thought before you had the child? Now, how do you feel before you have a child? Good. Yes? You expect something, you feel good. So, take and reason with me. No child is more than one child for 6 years. What is more? A child for 6 years or a child, no child at all? What is more? What is more gain? A child having it 6 years. Was it? Yes, that's a gain. But he now not consider that as a gain, but he consider that as a loss. And he says, I cannot think like I thought I was before. I cannot. And I said, I know that you cannot. Because you have an error in your heart that keeps you in bondage to yourself. Because what would he like to control? What would he like to control? Something that is in his control? Is his child's life under his control or not? No. But he still would resurrect it if he can. Is it good that he cannot resurrect the child? Yes? Yes. Because what would we do with all our death? We would resurrect them. For what purpose? For whose? For whom? For ourselves. Because we need a gain. Because we think they belong to us. So Jesus continues in his description of the heart with the second part of the heart when he says there in Matthew 6:22, he says, the eye is the light of the body. If your eye be single, your whole body will be light. But if your eye is evil, your whole body will be darkness. And if that which is in you darkness, what in you should be light is darkness, how great then is the darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either he hate the one or the other. You cannot serve mammon and God. Now in this case of this gentleman, what is the mammon? His daughter is the mammon. Yes? And why does he suffer? For whose sake does he suffer? Who lost something? The child? The owner of the child or him? He thinks him. So let's look to the two eyes, the evil eye and the single eye, because they are decisive how we see the things, and they answer our question, where is the problem of humanity. The single eye and the evil eye tell us how we come to the gain and how we avoid the loss. So, the one eye says to receive is gain, and the other eye says to give is gain. So what would you suppose, which is the right eye? The giving eye. So if the receiving is gain, then the opposite of receiving, what is that? No, it's not give. It's not receive. Yes, that's the opposite of receiving. Not receive, or receive too less, or something is taken away from you. And if giving is your gain, then what is the opposite of giving? Not giving or keeping. You remember what Jesus once said? He who wants to keep his life will lose it. Did you know the equation? And he who gives it will gain it. Yes, so what's the difference between the two eyes in function? So the one is your action, give, not to give, keep, makes you to have a yes and a no for everything you do. But if receiving and not receiving, receive too less, or something's taken away, is your loss and your gain, then how much can you do for it? How much can you do for what you receive? Nothing. How much can you do when something is taken away from you? Nothing. So you lose your no. You lose also your yes, but that doesn't matter. As long as you receive, nothing happens. You don't see your prisonership. That's why you must come into loss to see yourself that you are a prisoner of yourself. So whatever brings us into loss and we lose to say no to it, because we have to say no to it, will bring us into disease, in discomfort, in all kinds of things. Because we must avoid the loss by all means. But if others can do us loss, then we are in danger. How often? How often? If we would know for sure that only by our action we can have gain or loss, how much fear would we have? For others, by example. None. We should be just fine. But we think with which eye? Which eye do we have in us, in our subconscious? The good eye, the single eye, or the evil eye? Well, we can just do a very short test. Yes, we have 2 doors to go out here. At the one door, you receive $1,000. And at the other, you have to give $1,000. You will always go for the gain. You see it? You see your evil eye? You don't see it. Because you want to receive. You see, that's where you think is the gain. You don't see that the gain is here. You get rid of those $1,000. You want to keep them, at least as long as you do not find something to spend them on. So this is the evil eye and the good eye. But the evil eye and the good eye have a beginning, and their beginning is in their identity. It's never the problem that we lose something that makes us sick. It's only when we come up and say it is personal loss. Now, when you lose a child, is it personal or not personal? Is that because you think with the right eye or with the evil eye? Do you betray yourself when you say it's personal, or do you tell to yourself the truth? Is that easy now for us to think, especially for mothers? Easy or not easy? No, we would all say the child is us. You see, why would we ever think the child is mine? Is it rational or irrational? because it's not the truth. But we all think the child is mine. A father, not long ago I had to talk to a young girl, 16 years old, with anxiety and fear. And the father told her, I made you and I kill you. Is that a good father? No. Is he in deception? Is in deep deception. Because why do we think that? And I came to understand that our own identity is the most decisive thing why we think personal or unpersonal. So I found out that we believe something about us by our motivation. And we all know that our motivation is selfishness and pride. But I have to reduce that to a thing that I can understand, and that is, I call selfishness, I have property or possession. That's the idea of selfishness. And what is pride is, I can create. That's why the human evil eye gives always in order to receive. That's the whole process of our eye, subconsciousness. So we give because we want to receive. The gain is where we receive. And the loss is where we do not receive. So we cannot avoid that. So we are prisoners always when we do not receive. So now this man loses his child. And he thinks his child is his possession. If he would have the right identity, he would never think the child is his. He would know exactly whose the child is. So let's look, what does human think they are? So who am I? That's the question. Why can the human have no property or possession? Or can they have property or possession? Let's just very simply go through it. Your life, is it yours or not? Your body, is it yours or not? Your nose is yours or not? Your ears are yours or not? I had one day a lady, she is a Christian lady, and I saw her 7 years after she had an accident with the car, that she ruptured her arm, and her arm was paralyzed now for 7 years. And she had severe pain in her arm, so that she had to take morphine. And she came to me, and I know that pain cannot come from the accident, because the accident heals after 1 year, a year and a half, it's gone. Why does she still have pain? And so I asked her, she was now 55, I think, and it happened with 47, 48. And I asked her, because she was a Christian, I said, how do you consider, does God love you or not? And she said, well, he was with me until I had this accident. Now he has punished me. I said, okay, I know this is a right way to think or not. Why does she think that God has punished her? Because she gained or lost? Lost. Did she lose something personal or impersonal? Whose arm is it? Now, for a Christian person with 55 years old, should know that everything she is God's. Should it? She should know, but when she loses his arm, who lost something? God lost something. Because she used that arm only for God. Should she? Did she? No, she said, I have children, they are in university, and now cannot work anymore for them. And now she was depressed. I said, well, God put his own arm into rest, and he gave you still a left arm to work for him. Wouldn't it be not better to think like that? To say, God, I'm sorry for you. Your arm is gone. But no matter, I will serve you with my left arm. Would she have any pain? Would she ever think God punished her? No, because she would think with the right eye, understanding her own identity, who she is. But we don't know that. We take possession of how much? Everything we grasp. And the husband is whose? I got him. I put a stamp on him. Mine. And the husband says, of course, she is mine. And we say it all in the sense of possession. Now there was a man who proved that he had no possession in his heart. He was the hardest man proved in the Bible. Who was it? Job. How many children? How many died in one day? All of them. And what did he say? Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I go. God has given, God has taken, the name of the Lord shall be praised. He mourned, he teared his thing in pieces for God's loss, not for his. How many diseases did he get? None. Because he proved he was total without possession, because he knew, I cannot create anything. If you create anything, that's yours. But if you can never create anything, then you can never say, that is mine. You can use everything, but you cannot call it yours. It's only in your administration. Your life, your body, was given to you to administer it and to use it for the gain, yes, and to make that gain for God, and then you would have your gain. So the idea that we can create things or that we can have anything is, as a possession, is a terrible thing. If we could take out the idea that I have anything, we could solve about 99% of all our problems. Because it's a deception to try to keep anything. There is one man who got into depression, you know, he was a wise man in the Bible. He went and he wrote a doctor work about gain and loss. Have you ever read that, Dr. Reid? What is it? Ecclesiastes, 12 chapters with one idea. I went out to see what is a gain, and I came to understand it's all a loss. He searched it with the good eye or with the evil eye. Solomon searched the gain with the evil eye. He made many people, he had many servants, he put palace there, he got 1,000 wives, he just accumulated a lot. And suddenly he realized that all of that is going to be taken away from him. And that drove him crazy. That depressed him. And he came to understand, and that's why he wrote that Ecclesiastes, to give us also an understanding what matters. If we search to have anything for ourselves, we will not just be disappointed, because he says everything is vanity. But it's only vanity if you want to have it for you. It's no vanity if it's not you. Paul said at the end of his life, he didn't say all is vanity, did he? No, he said, I fight the good fight. Yes, so he went because he said, I consider everything, what? A loss that I may gain Christ. Did he have the right way to think? I consider everything a loss that I may gain Christ. And he saw even again when he was beaten and crucified. I mean, not crucified, but stoned. When he's stoned, he saw that as a gain. That mind would be nice to have, is it? That heart, how he was thinking. He never saw, and you never find him anything saying negative. Right? Read Paul. He will never complain that someone did hurt him. He once said about Demas, you might read it, that he said he did some wrongs But he never complained that some things didn't go well in his life, because he saw that as an honor to overcome. So there are people that show us that's possible to think in your heart rightly. So we cannot create anything. But now the human thinks he can create anything. Because if he would not think he's a creator, he would never think things are his. So what do humans think they create? Humans have basic needs. You need oxygen. Can you create oxygen? No. How do you satisfy your need for oxygen? You take in order to give, and you have a source that is air. You need water. Can you create water? You take in order to give, and you need a water well. You need food. Can you create food? No. How do you do it? You take in order to give, and you have the earth as a source. And now we come to love. When you love, with whose love do you love? Now, when you exercise love, is it your love or not your love? And you say, I love you. Where does that love come? I tell you, every one of you think it's your love. You would never be upset if someone would reject your love if you don't think it's yours. Because if you just give to your husband God's love and he does not respond, you say, poor guy. But you have no problem. But if he does not respond, then you say, oh, poor girl, because I want something in return, because I gave it from myself. All humans believe that love is their creation. That's why they give in order to receive. You see the difference between the law and not the law? You know, giving before you take, is that possible or impossible? Can you ever give before you take? Can you or not? No, it's impossible. That's why take to give, that's the law, gives to receive, and every human being does not come and say, oh, love is a taking and giving. They all say it's a give and take. Because all think, I gave love from me. If you never gave anything from you, how much problem would you have after 40 years of marriage? How much did you invest from you? Did you invest anything from you? No. So, man does think he can create love. All people think love is their creation. We think that we create love and give love. That's why we expect from human to love us back. If you would know, have you ever asked a person, please make me some air that I have to breathe? Can you do that? No, it's unreasonable. Please do some water that I have something to drink. But on spiritual level, we go to other humans and we ask from them what to do. To make us that love, to feel good. We don't see the deception. So what does man must think about himself that he is when he thinketh? He is love, and things are his possession. What must he think he is? There are only two identities that a person can have. He is either a creator or a creature. There are not more identities. You're either a creature or a creator. So if you think you possess a thing, and if you think you love, who must you think you are? You must think you are a creator, you are a God. Did you never think it? Some patients are very, when I tell them, look, this is what you think in your heart, you are. That's your identity. And they say, doctor, I never thought this. I said, I understand you. Consciously, you never think it, except you're crazy. But if you would not think it, you would not be in my office. Because our problems come of overestimation of ourselves. So let's look. If you know God, but you think you're God, what's your behavior? So from the behavior of man, we can read everything what is in his heart, and from his ideologies. We can just go everything. If you know once the root, you will see every ideology has the same root. So it doesn't matter which ideology you have. So, what's the worst behavior of man that men love most? What would be the behavior that you would eradicate from the earth if you could? It's power over others. To want to have power is humans' greatest desire. And it is humans' always attempt. He thinks the more power he has, the better gain he has. You are with me? Give human power and everything in his life is changing. You know the experiment with the students, the one that were prisoners and the other were the one that kept the warden? How does people call it? Warden? Yeah, the jailer. Yeah, that's a better word. So the one were the prisoners, the other were the jailers. Yes? And they gave power to the jailers to do whatever they want with the prisoners. And these were normal humans. But they were given power over these other students. And in almost 5 or 7 days, they killed them. They tortured them. Normal people. 1 week before normal. And then suddenly they got the power to do whatever they want with that other person. We are all crazy for power. Yes or no? I tell you. The fight between the genders is a proof that we always fight for supremacy. In a marriage, why do we have conflicts? Who is stronger? When does human beings start to want to have power over others? At what age? In the mother's womb. But we won't see it there, but when they come out, what's the first thing in your first days? The baby makes clear who's the boss. Every mother knows that. Yes, mothers? Is the baby born a king or a servant? A king. If it would be a servant, it would be a pleasure. But that baby is born a king. It's full of expectations, full of claims, we will see. And, if the mother would not obey, then the child knows how to punish that. So, power over others is the worst behavior that can have someone who thinks he's a god while he's not. Control over others. Do you ever like to control others? Any attempts to that? I know husbands who put the camera in the car of their wives so that they manage to see everywhere where they are. Yes? That's control. That's love. He just loves her so much. He wants to see her all the time. With whom she talks, who she takes into the car. And yes, she had a boyfriend. And she stopped with the boyfriend. And then he went to find the car with the GPS. Isn't that crazy? Yes or no? Control over others is a terrible thing. Have you ever judged others? Why would you judge people if you're not a God? Because who's the measurement for judgment? God is it? And if you judge others, who is it? You are the measurement. If all people would do the things like I say, everything would be fine. Yes or no? Do you see it yourself? Or am I only one that plays the God? Every human being asks for worship. Did you know that? The parents are the first that worship the child. because they want praise, appreciation, respect, and applause. I have seen many diseases in humans that they come to me and say, my mother never appreciated my work. And I said, what? My mother never said a thank you. Did she need to? They're devastated over years. Mother is dead now, and they are sick and have physical diseases because they never got an appreciation. Do you need appreciation? You want to be worshipped. You want to have it. It's not there. But the greatest and all powerful evidence that we think we are God is because we give before we take. So what's the difference between a God and a created being? A God has no needs, so he only gives. A human being is a channel he must take in order to give. Now, if a human gives before he takes, he must think he's God. Our own actions prove our subconscious idea who we are. So, religions, I will prove that religions have made themselves from their own heart. You know what all religions believe except the biblical one? They all believe that they are gods and they use the power to rule. Have you ever seen a religion that has no power to rule? Yes or no? All religions try to rule and they believe in the doctrines that they are gods. The atheists, the agnostic, the humanists, the communists, what do they believe about themselves? Do they believe that they have a spiritual dependency, or do they think they're spiritual independent? They think they're spiritual independent. But I can help them when they come to my practice to show them that their spiritual dependency makes them sick. And then I have the scientists, my colleagues, which are maybe almost the worst, because they believe in something that is totally impossible. They believe that out of a less complex being develops a more complex being. So if that is the truth, what is the idea behind it? Who is the greatest or the highest being on earth if we came into existence by evolution? Who is the highest being? We are. So we have no higher being over us, so we must be the highest being. So you see, all the theories that are here outside, except the right one that says we are not creatures, we are creatures, not gods, have the same root. So I put them all on a tree. I say many branches, a single root. There is one tree, and that is the atheist branch. Then you have the agnostic branch. And then you have the communist branch. And then you have the scientist branch. And then the most greatest branch is the religious people branch. What do they all have in common? They all think they are gods. So is it any difference what you believe? Does it matter that you fight for beliefs on the surface level? No. Because every one of these ideas have made their idea out of this assumption, of this idea that is not right. So it's very simple when you challenge or when you look to ideologies or to any beliefs to just check what is the root of it. And if the root of it is, I am God, you know it's right or wrong. It must be wrong. It is an illusion to think that you're God when you're not. So what is the wrong identity? It's I'm a creator, that means I'm a God. The right identity would be I'm a creature of God. If you're a creature of God, love is your motivation. You know you have no property, you know you cannot create anything, so what is then your first action? You take that all from God and you give it. and by giving it, you are living and are an agent like you were made to be. So our problem is that we have a wrong idea about ourselves. And if we want ever to get the control over ourselves, we must put our identity right. I will show tomorrow that every single thought that we have must come from our identity. It all starts. Every information hits first our identity, and then the steps we will see that we have in our subconscious follow. But if the identity is right, everything else becomes right. Every action goes to be right. But if your identity is wrong, every what you decide is wrong. No matter if you are supposedly free until you get into the problem where you have the loss. Now I know this was a long lesson tonight, but I thank you for your patience, and we are still having a few nights to go where we need to see more the things and grasp them. And then, of course, when you like them, you put them into practice, and they will set us free. The truth will never take us in bondage. The truth will always make our minds to be free and to think like we want to think. We would have no one thought that will bring us into a problem. So I'm looking forward to the next hours. They are getting even more nice. Tomorrow night we will speak about why children get sick. I will prove how I found out that love can never be the production of a human being. Love, righteousness, truth can never be the production of ourselves. And I found it in children why their sickness appears. And I found that what matters most, so that we understand and know for sure we always love with another's love. Never with our own, because we have none. We have only the ability to love, like we have the ability to breathe, but we have not the ability to make the oxygen. So we have no ability to make love. We only have the ability to use it.